Hello guys and welcome back to another of our classes about making data analysis with Excel. So as you can see in this project, our main goal at first was to create a database. Right now we want to make a complete analysis of this database. So the way we'll proceed right now, we'll talk about the goals, what exactly we are trying to look with all this data, and then we'll make our dashboard and create our database, make our database analysis. So let's start. So the first thing I want you guys to do is really to open up a Word document, since in this class, we only want to write down our, what exactly will be our goals for this data analysis. So we'll make two type, for me it's two types. So we'll make a basic data extraction and an advanced data extraction. Both of them are not the same thing. The basic one will just, in most cases, include just one calculation, and the advanced will include a bit more calculations to be able to get the data we need. Alright, so with all this data, the first thing we want to find out is the number of men versus the number of women. So the way we'll write it down, simply write down basic. So as I said, the first thing we want to calculate is really the number of men versus the number of women. So this way we'll know exactly how many men and how many women we have in our database. And each time it will refresh the page, we'll have the exact number of men versus the exact number of women. Then another interesting thing that we can look at on this database will be the average age. Right now we have our population. We can find out the average age of our population. Once again, you can do hundreds of things with the database, but for the purpose of this course, I'm just gonna use some, simple things that can be, that will be used to make a database analysis, but you can do hundreds of things with a database like this. So like I said, the next thing we are gonna look for is the average age. So once again, it's something that is easy to do. You will see this type of data extraction is very simple. Next thing, the number of each profession or a sector of activity, you name it how you want. So in this case, we have our professions here, for example, teaching, healthcare. So we'll find out the number of, let's say, health workers that we have. So we'll have example, let's say 100 health workers. Well, it's gonna generate each time the right number of health workers. So number, let's call it number of each profession. All right, so that's the third thing we are looking for. Next, we want to find out the number of persons from each area. So in this study, we have, if I'm not mistaken, 13 or 14 areas, and we want to find out how much people are from each area in this case. So we will have a small place where it's gonna write, where exactly we are looking. We are gonna look for how many people are coming from each area. So we'll write down number of persons per area. Next, the average income. Once again, it's something very simple to do. So we'll calculate it as well for all categories, for all sectors. So just the average income of this population. So this way we'll know in average what is the average income of, let's say, a citizen of Canada. So average income. Once again, all the numbers used are random numbers, so those are not real results, just for you guys to be sure. Next thing, we want to find out the average value of one car. So how much each car in this exercise will be, what's the worth of each car. Once again, it will only be an approximation and just an average. So we'll use we'll use techniques to find out the average value of one car. Of a car that a person purchased. Once again, there are persons who purchase more cheaper cars. There is person who will purchase more expensive cars. All right. Next thing, number of persons. A number of persons with debts higher than a certain number. So when we are talking about debts, we are gonna talk only about the debts right here. So we'll try to find out how much people have. What's the amount of people that have debts higher than, let's say, $100,000, or it could be $50,000. Once again, it will make the calculation automatically. So the way we are gonna write it down, number of persons with debts higher than, let's say, X. Last thing will be the number of persons that have more than a certain amount left on their mortgage. So once again, we will decide of the amount, and the number of persons will change. So for example, we are looking for people that have more than $200,000 left on their mortgage. So those people will be calculated on in our, let's say, calculation. So once again, as I said, there are hundreds of ways to make a database analysis, and there are hundreds of things that we can look and connect together. But once again, we are making some basic analysis. All right, next thing we want to do is for our advanced features, we can say it this way. So the first thing we want to do will be calculate the average income per territory. So for each territory, what will be the average income of people? For example, for New Brunswick, what is the average income of people from New Brunswick? What is the average income of peoples from Quebec, for example? Then we'll have the average income per sector. This means, for example, how much a healthcare worker will earn, let's say, in average. The next thing, the percentage of people that are having a higher total debt that their yearly income. So what does this mean? Let's say, for example, right here, we have a person that has their value of debt is higher than their total income. So once again, we are talking about the whole debt. So the value of their debts, we talk here about their mortgage, we talk here about, we talk here about absolutely everything, other debts that are higher than their income. So their income is somewhere here. Here we go. So once again, we will have to make a certain calculation to find out. And the last thing that we are looking for is what's the average age of people having more than a certain amount of net worth. So we can, for example, look for people that are... One second, I just didn't write the last thing. So for example, we can look for people that have more than $1 million. So we can look, for example, for people that are millionaires. So what is the percentage of this population that has millionaires in it? So once again, we'll make the calculations that can be used after that to find out what is the average people that have more than a certain amount of money for their net worth. So that's it for our goals. So right now we have our goals to be able to create our, to make our analysis. The next thing that we will have to do is to create our dashboard. So the way that the analysis will be, that everything will be presented. And after that, we'll make our calculations. So that's it for this course, guys, and see you all in our next class.